Bucky O'Hare was a short-lived comic book and cartoon series, but its life or popularity wasn't short enough to not spawn an NES game that may not have become a full-fledged classic, but does have a bit of a following. Hilariously, the game came out in 1992 as the cartoon was already cancelled, which sort of doomed it into obscurity before it even hit the ground. Bucky O'Hare was another game based on an IP from a then-current cartoon, toy, or movie series made by Konami. A list that also features games like Tiny Toon Adventures, Goonies, Monsters in My Pocket, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The game is often called a Mega Man clone, or even going as far as saying it was Konami's attempt to make a Mega Man franchise of their own. Had Bucky O'Hare stuck around, that may have proven to be true, but as it is, a clone is the best term for it. But even then, saying the game is a clone of Mega Man is a little bit of a simplification, but not at all unwarranted. You take Bucky through several different worlds and stages to rescue his crewmates, and with that, gain their powers, which aids you in other stages. Mega Man-like on the surface, it certainly is, and with a few things reminiscent of the Blue Bomber's outings in various stages, the similarities probably outweigh the differences, but that is no reason to push the game aside. The plot is a simple one. Bucky O'Hare's crew gets kidnapped by the Toad Empire, so Bucky sets off to rescue each one. He does this by traversing through different planets and then defeating the boss at the end. When you rescue a crew member, they have come across a new weapon or have a special ability ready for you to use. A couple have both. For example, Deadeye has a 3-way shot and Bucky has a charged jump, fitting for a rapid character. Each crew member controls just a little different in one aspect or another. Blinky, for example, has the special ability to use a jetpack to float, and he seems to handle jumping and landing a little easier, possibly due to his size. Either way, he seems best suited for tight platforming. You can visit the planets in any order, and with that, get the power-ups in any order as well, even though the size of the planets in order suggests a route for you to take, and it's just as easy for you to stick to that route. When you get to the final level, which is one super long journey through the Toad's battleship, you will use and need every character's various powers, something that wasn't true on the planets. This game is easily one of the contenders for the NES Hall of Fame in terms of difficulty. This is a good game to suggest to someone looking to get a taste of that classic NES crazy difficulty you hear people talk about. This can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on the player. If you hate games like Battletoads, Ninja Gaiden, or even games like Castlevania Mega Man make you rage quit, you probably won't like Bucky O'Hare anymore. You will find yourself hearing that death tune or seeing that continue screen a lot. With levels including crazy platforming over mechanical snakes that can kill you with one touch, or trying to skate mini currents of flowing lava, a part very reminiscent of Mega Man, it almost feels like the game is more about finding ways to torture the player than to be a great adventure. But with enough trial and error, the path does open. Thankfully, unlike a lot of brutally hard games, Bucky O'Hare offers a lot of checkpoints, some of them even being one screen long, and there is even a password system. In particularly tough spots, you'll be happy to know that you'll keep starting right at that part and not 5 screens back, having to work back just to dial over again. The Toad battleship is the most unforgiving though, being so long it is almost enough to make you grind your teeth down and the checkpoints start spacing out. Bucky O'Hare benefits from having unique environments, an aspect that saves the game from getting stale when 80% of your enemies are just a few variations on Toads. At first, the game almost feels like it wants to be a run and gun, but in reality, it is more of a straightforward platformer, all about the big leaps, tight spaces, and not falling into the pits of death or crushed by moving walls. Enemies will be on almost every screen, and if not an enemy, there will be some sort of turret or electrical grid that will give you a shock. But they serve as more of a hindrance for making the big leaps, not exactly something that will kill you from a few shots, though there are a few things out there that will kill you on instant touch. The bosses, on the other hand, are a lot of trouble. Touching them is out of the question, and they all have some attack that will dispose of you in one shot. You will die, and die before you get the hang of what you're supposed to do. Sometimes it's about biding your time and taking one shot, and sometimes about quick reflexes and a fast trigger finger. Being a late entry in the NES library, the graphical presentation is a very nice one with detailed sprites and a wider color palette. There are some good effects such as the rolling fire or large moving cogs in the space station. It isn't the prettiest thing on the NES, but it's hard to complain about any of the visuals. The music is probably one of the strongest points. Nothing crazy long and epic, but the tunes are very catchy and add a sense of excitement and action to each and every scene. I personally really enjoy the soundtrack all on its own. Bucky may not be the most original game on the NES, and is one of the most unforgiving, but the fun factor is always there. If it lost its checkpoints and continued features, it probably would be out there with Battletoads, a game that serious NES gamers love for the gameplay, but everyone else hates for its unforgiving difficulty. Thankfully, it has those checkpoints, so it almost taunts you to keep trying, and it feels rewarding when you do, and one day make it all the way to the final boss. With good visuals and catchy tunes, you may just be surprised with how much you enjoy the title when you give it the proper chance. I'll see you next time!